By striving and seeking to achieve, we're trying to replace who God made us to be with who we believe we should be. You have permission to not be perfect in front of your kids. Like, it's okay if they see you cry. It's okay if they see you struggle.
What are your thoughts on the mystery baskets? Like, I know I'm not from Britain. Okay, so a lot of these pastries are like new to me, and I go,
Those are from the pit of hell. Those are from the pit of hell.
Okay.
Like, literally, like, first of all, you are...
Hey friends, welcome back to What Even Is This, the podcast that whispers you're doing great, while also asking, but why are we all so tired? I'm Jane, and as always, I'm here with my co-host, Jordan. What's up, girl?
Nothing much. How are you? And hey to everyone listening. If you're currently hiding from your to-do list, staring into space, or just trying to exist without performing, you're in the right place.
Yes, indeed. Today we are spiraling lovingly, gently, okay, around a question that I think hits all of us right in the jugular. You ready? Why do we feel guilty for simply existing? Like, why is resting suspicious, right? Why is slowing down terrifying? Why does sitting still feel like we're committing some kind of moral crime, Jordan? I don't understand. It doesn't make sense, but yet it does. I don't know.
No, it does. And it's this moment where I like to pause and just have some like inner hall monitor that pops up out of nowhere, like, man, you shouldn't be doing that. You should actually be doing something, but like, tell me what the something is.
Oh my gosh, exactly. It is the worst. And before we bring in our guest today, yes, we have another guest. I'm really excited for you all to meet her. We need to talk about this pressure to produce. Why are we allergic to stillness? How existing or just existing somehow became this radical act for all of us. And I don't know, when I think about it, Jordan, sometimes life hands us an opportunity for us to pause, and we resist it. I know I do. Maybe I shouldn't generalize, but I know I resist the pause. I resist because sometimes I think in the pause we have moments where we can reflect and think about what it is that, is this a life that we're currently building? Is this the life that we want? Did we choose this? It kind of makes me think of, how like Spotify does like their Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year, or for me, I use YouTube Music, so YouTube Recap, I think is what they call it. And I laugh every single time because it charts my music journey through, the year, and the top 5 songs are always the top 5 songs my kids chose.
Of course.
Okay, like we got K-pop Demon Hunters on top. We got Stray Kids. We are a K-pop family in general. Right now, when my kids have, and then we mix in Forrest Frank. My oldest has become a Forrest Frank fan. But like, I look at this and I'm like, what happened? This is not what I want. I don't, and I can't. I don't think I'm the only one who feels this way. And so I sometimes feel like when we have these moments where like we need to just take up space and exist, it's an opportunity for us to ask, like, what is it that I want? So Jordan, it got me thinking, like, if our lives had a year-end recap, how do we know which tracks are really ours? Huh? The ones that reflect what we actually want, and which are just the songs life or other people put on repeat for us. Thank you, my lovely children. I love you. So I don't know, what comes to mind for you with this, I don't know, this stretch of a metaphor, if you will.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the ones that you can look at and you just feel good about, maybe.
Yeah.
Is like, yeah, like if I look at something and I go, oh, yeah, I know why that's on there. Oh, yeah. And or maybe here's a better one. Or maybe it's the ones that you look at and you go, oh, yeah. Like, it's ones that, I don't know, either you didn't realize how good they were in the moment, or like, you kind of took them for granted, or you just didn't notice them, or, I don't know. But at least for me, I mean, I think this whole idea of feeling guilty about needing rest, or just to to be for a few
Yeah.
months or that kind of thing is just I would hope I will reach a day and age where I don't feel guilty about it, but like I
Yeah.
really do feel guilty. And so I think it's fun to look back on a year and, just find something that was that moment where you did feel yourself or let yourself not feel guilty for a second. And you did something that, you maybe wouldn't have otherwise done. Or, it looks like a baby step, but it's a baby step that's adding up with a bunch of other little baby steps. And that's going to be a whole mindset shift at some point. So I don't know. I hope that answered your question. I don't know. That's just that's what immediately came to mind. How about you? How would you answer that?
I think, I don't know if we're going with this metaphor of the playlist. I guess I came up with it, so I know it was my metaphor, and I was kind of like I kind of like this because I'm a music gal. I love listening to new music. I like trying new things out. But I do think, especially with playlists and using this idea of the end of year recap and looking at this track of songs, I'm like, I would not necessarily have picked this for my playlist because I did it out of obligation for my kids. But then I think about this idea of what do I want in life? What do I want on my playlist? What do I want in my life? I think that's a really hard question for us to wrestle with because I've had several conversations this past year with people where they felt this guilt or this shame or that, oh no, it's selfish for me to claim what it is that I want. And I think that's a lie. Like, I think not that we exist in a way where the world revolves around us, but I think there is a freedom to say, hey, what do I want in this life? What is important? What do I value? And if we aren't aligning our lives in that way, we're being pretty inauthentic with ourselves, So I don't know. Don't have an inauthentic playlist. Go on with your bad self and boogie on down with whatever track is on your playlist. I don't think this is something that any of us wrestle with alone in isolation. And I'm really excited about who we have brought in today to talk to us about this idea of like, is it okay to just exist and to be? And because she's lived in this tension too. And she actually works with leaders who face this every single day.
Yeah. So today we are talking with Emma Sharma, who is the founder of Swallowtail Group. She's a speaker. She's an entrepreneur. She is a working mom of 2. So she knows the pressures of high stakes leadership and what it costs to keep hustling, but keep hustling for worth.
Oof.
Yeah.
Youch. That one hits home for me. Emma was really great. I really enjoyed getting to know her in this conversation alongside Jordan. She's going to help us unpack how to separate our identity from achievement, what we lose when we never stop striving, and what it looks like to give ourselves genuine permission to just be. No guilt, no earning, no proving.
Yep. So, as always, grab your beverage of choice, find the closest non-chaotic corner,
and let's jump in.
This next part of our conversation is something that we like to call a spiral discussion. And it's where we take one big question and we slowly circle deeper and deeper around it, kind of like peeling back the layers of our own beliefs. And today's core question is a big one. And it is, how can we begin to untangle our identity from achievement and give others permission to just be? And that means without guilt, without striving, and without needing to prove our value. And we know that this is something that so many working moms wrestle with, ourselves included. So I would like us to just let's do some spiraling, shall we? So like I said, the core question for this time is, what if your worth isn't tied to your work, and what would it look like to truly believe that? So, Jane, I would love to hear from you. When did you first notice in your career that achievement had become part of your identity? And then how did you start to see it showing up like in your daily life or even your relationships?
Jordan, I have really come to terms in the last couple of years of this core, I don't know, what do they call it? Your tragic flaw or something.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
I am an achiever at heart. Like I want to set goals and I want to well, for the lack of another word, achieve them, right? I want to arrive. I want to, I like this idea of becoming, but I want becoming to have an endpoint, a place where I'm just like, I'm here and I am the person I was created to be. And I really just noticed that, and even when I reflect back to my early years, when I started my career in my early 20s, where I was just always mentally on in work mode. Like when I wasn't there, I was at home and I was thinking about it. I was like writing down new goals. I was doing side hustles. I was trying to create my own thing. And there's nothing wrong with like the entrepreneurial spirit, right? But that was what my life just centered around, and I saw the deterioration start to happen early in my marriage because, I would bring that home. I would bring the stress. I would always think about it. And it almost was an igniter for my husband and I to like have an argument, and we both started realizing this tension we were dealing with. And even now, as I've grown out of it and have tried to fully integrate my life, but also set those boundaries, gosh, I just... it is really hard, especially now that we have children in the mix, to turn it off or to be like, it's okay to step away from this right now. I work remotely. It's kind of a hybrid remote situation right now. So there's interruptions and it's okay to have those interruptions and not to react like, oh my gosh, I'm just trying to get this 30 minutes of work left in, but then when I step away, I'm still in work mode sometimes in my mind and not being present in other spaces of my life. And so it's a wrestling match I know I definitely deal with every day. And if I'm not careful and in my unhealthiest mindset, I start to apply my worthiness to how well my work is going. And I know that's not a great place to be mentally or spiritually, but that's just the honest truth. I don't know. When did you first notice, Jordan, that achievement had become part of your identity?
I mean, and I think Jane and I are first daughters. I think Emma,
Amen.
you are as well. We're firstborn daughters. And so achievement, I feel like, is just kind of like tattooed into you. Something that's expected from others and also from yourself. You just kind of expect to always be on. And I think what I heard too when you were sharing, Jane, a big underlying theme of balance. And I think we think, oh, we can balance all this out and nobody's going to be affected by the fact that I'm having to achieve some. No, they will. Somebody will. It's never going to be a nice, healthy balance if you're achieving for the wrong reasons, I think. So for me, I mean, when I notice I'm a little more snippy with my kids or just like, I told my husband yesterday at dinner, we're all sitting there and it was like a very quiet dinner, which is not normal. And I went, I am brain tired. Like my brain is done. And, we were going through different things with work and everything. So there's just a lot more like shifting and new things going on right now. So I know where it's coming from, but that doesn't make it any better.
Sure.
It just, So for me, I mean, that's kind of where it's coming from. And, I am kind of wondering too now, like, what am I losing by, giving so much attention, dominant? I don't know the right way to say it, but giving so much of myself to making sure that I am still achieving to what others expect of me or what I expect of me. I am kind of starting to think through like, okay, so if I had maybe not been pushing myself this hard this time, would maybe something better have happened over here? Or, that kind of a thing. And Emma, I mean, I'd love to kind of to shift that to you a little bit and just kind of hear from you, what do you think we as working moms, working women, what do we lose emotionally, spiritually, and honestly, even physically when we believe that we always have to be doing in order to be valuable?
Such a good question. And I think there's some really obvious points, right? So burnout, when we're always striving to be, when we're always striving to do, that's a recipe at some point I mean, at some point something gives, right? And, I've had burnout. I'm sure I know many, many women, working moms have. And I think there's just so much that we lose because really what we're trying to do is by striving and seeking to achieve, we're trying to replace who God made us to be with who we believe we should be. And that's never, ever going to be anything other than hard, right? Because the perfect mode for us to be in is just, who did you make me to be? What do you have for me to do, Father? And from that place, that's why we can, when we anchor into that, that's why we can be successful even from a place of rest, because he calls us into rest and he allows us to do much of what he created us to do from that place of rest. I think, for me, learning to do things at a different pace has been really important as well, because it's very important to me to set a good example to my daughter. And particularly my daughter, both my kids, but particularly my daughter. And I realized that, in the way I'd grown up, taking all of my self-worth, all of my identity from, and really needing to strive, because at school I was smart and that's how I achieved my identity, right? The smart kid, the kid that was headed somewhere from nowhere to somewhere. What I was modeling for my daughter was a very unhealthy pattern of, you are what you do, you are what you achieve. And just realizing how damaging that pattern had been on my life and the amount of healing I've had to do to recover from that. It was actually quite one of those aha moments which really broke me, of like, I cannot repeat that cycle. I cannot repeat that cycle. I cannot put those expectations and pressures onto her the way they were put onto me. So I think it's out of not wanting to miss a healthy relationship with my daughter or see her grow up to be everything she was created to be. It's been quite a motivator to do things differently. Does that make sense?
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it speaks to legacy, right? I mean, you want to set your kids up for success. So yeah, it makes total sense.
Well, and it speaks to also just like, I don't know if you guys ever think about this. I feel like, Emma, you probably do. Your kids are always watching and they catch more than they're actually directly taught.
They
And
see everything.
it's they see everything, and like even some of the things my kids will bring up, like, do you remember? And they'll like name this detailed thing that happened months ago, and I'm like, no. And you go, oh my gosh, okay, so they are sponges. They're just always paying attention, and gosh, it's something that really convicts me, right? It just convicts me on how I show up each day. I don't do it perfectly. Am I rooting myself in the Lord, in my spirit, in Jesus, each day? Am I just taking that moment to pause and being like, okay, you are who you are and your identity is based in Jesus, and how is that going to affect how you show up today? And that's great when I remember to do it. I'm not going to say I remember to do it every single day, and I can honestly say when I choose to reflect back, whether it was a good day or a hard day, those are the moments where I kind of recalibrate, right? And gosh, it's, the whole legacy piece of that, it's such a challenge for us, for sure, in this space. Yeah.
I do think it's really important, though, to give ourselves grace. Like, I've had to learn to do this. Even, like, I went through a really tough time for a few years not so long ago. And I was having therapy, and it was tough. We worked through some really difficult stuff. But one of the things I will never forget my therapist said on my third visit, she said, you have permission to not be perfect in front of your kids. Like, it's okay if they see you cry. It's okay if they see you struggle. It's okay if occasionally they see you fall apart, because they need to know that that's okay. That's also about being and resting and not striving to be perfect. So even on those days, I know exactly the kind of moments you mean, but you said, I saw you. That's okay. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. That was not a great day for mommy. Let's not dwell on it. That's an opportunity. Yeah, that's an opportunity to remind them you have bad days too. We all have bad days, and where we're not the best version of ourselves, or definitely not operating in the full fruits of the spirit. That's okay. That's really okay.
I love that. Sometimes we just need a little permission.
Yeah.
That's what my counselor is good for too, as giving us permission to show up as our full, authentic self, no matter where we are in life. But I mean, I feel like we could sit and spiral on this question for hours. But Jordan, I think we need to keep moving this conversation forward into the deep dive. What do you think?
I agree. And Emma, you've already given us so much to think about, but let's dive in even deeper. And I just would really like to pick your brain a little bit and just figure out some ways that we can all begin to just rewrite these toxic narratives. I mean, let's be honest, that's what they are. And they're just poisoning our brains when we think about worth and work and rest.
Yep. So we're going to throw a few questions your way, some big ones, some practical ones, and we just want to hear what your heart and your experience and your wisdom has to offer in this space of this question of just giving ourselves permission to just be. So.
So, Emma, I know that you work with high-performing leaders every day. You are one yourself. And why, just kind of pondering through people that you've worked with, as well as just like in your own career journey, why do you think it is so hard, especially for women, to feel like they can be enough by just being? Does that make sense?
It totally does. I think there are a couple of reasons that really jump out. First of all, being conditioned now for several generations and decades as women, we have to be able to do it all, right? In rebelling against the narrative from the 1940s and 50s that our place was in the home as wives to cook and clean and raise children. And for some women, that really was where they were born to be. We replaced that, what could be very unhealthy narrative, with an equally unhealthy narrative, which is we have to do it all. We have to be better at it than men. And we have to strive to achieve as much as we can. And I think particularly for our generations, the reason it's become really hard to actually just give ourselves permission to not strive to be brilliant at everything is it's been hardwired into us that we should. And actually, I would say not by men predominantly, but by other women. So I know there have been points in my career where I've said, I'm not sure I want to go for that promotion or that role, or maybe now is the time to go a little slower on something. And it's actually other women who've been quite critical and said, no, you're going to let the slide down. You're going to make, remember, you're the only woman in the C-suite. We need you to get to the board, And I think that is a very, very unhealthy narrative. And I think it's why I'm certainly seeing generations younger than me really rebel against that and take a lot of flack for it. And I'm like, you go, girl. Like you want some work-life balance? I honor you for that. You want to switch off occasionally. That's really important. You should do that. And I do think I'm not going to say we can't do it all, because God made us very capable of doing all sorts of things. I just don't know that that's really what we're designed for. We're created specifically with a purpose in mind. Scripture says that. And I'm pretty sure that he didn't assign everything to be done to one person. So we're meant to play in teams. We're meant to be part of a community. We're meant to share the load. And I think as women, we often feel, if I if I ask for help, or if I signal I need help, or if I quite frankly just don't want to do it all, somehow I'm failing. Somehow that's weakness. And, you know, I do feel that the judgment that can come your way when you simply take the view that I just want to step out of my career for a while and just sit at the feet of Jesus. People are like, they call that thing, there are terminology for that, which is, oh, you're retiring. No, I'm not retiring. I'm taking a break and seeing what's next in this season for me. So I just recommend one book that's been absolutely seminal for me was a book I read last year called Abba's Child by Brendan Manning. It's an old book. It was written, I think, in the 1970s, but it's brilliant. You need to read it with a box of tissues and quite slowly. But in it, it really is about the most important thing for us to learn is that we can come into the presence of the Father and experience immense intimacy, but we don't have to be perfect to do that. In fact, He wants us to come with all of our mess. And only when we do can we truly experience Him in all of His goodness. A perfect person doesn't need all of His goodness, but a broken one does. And that has been, reading that book and spending a lot of time in reflection on what it was saying, and also in the scriptures that are relevant to the message. It's been transformative. So hopefully that's helpful to someone.
Yeah.
No, that absolutely is. Yeah. No. I love a good book to read when I get opportunities to sit and read. But Emma, I love what you said, because I too have witnessed this where women have been more outspoken and critical of other women and just the choices that we make, whether you're in the workplace, whether you're full-time stay-at-home mom. I kind of this is something I observe, and maybe in my own mind I get a little critical too, but I kind of just have gotten to this point. I'm like, can you just let us make the decisions and listen? I'll listen to what Jesus is telling us, and then give us the permission to live out in that authenticity, okay? And not judge and not make that comment or snide comment of like, why did she choose to homeschool? Or why did she choose to send her kids to public school? Or why does she choose to work outside the home full time, and have a family? And part of me wonders if that's like a piece of pride or jealousy that we're projecting onto other people because maybe there's something we're unhappy with in our own life, or maybe it's a permission that we felt like we can't fully accept or receive. I don't know. These are just thoughts that run through my head when I think about this, because I feel like I come to this place often. But for just the listener who's listening right now, who is just sitting with it, maybe this is the first time they've really considered this permission to just be. I mean, how do we even begin to even know or understand who we are beneath all the striving or the titles, the to-do list, whatever that thing might be that we think is standing in the way of accepting and receiving that permission to just be? Like, where do we start? Because it just kind of feels a little overwhelming of a thought, especially if, this is the first time you're hearing this.
So I think there's a really important point here, because you do have to be intentional and go after it to find out why you can't. But in doing that, you can't turn it into the next striving activity, which sounds crazy, but it's very, very, very easy to become overwhelmed by, I need to be better. I need to do better. I need to get to the root of every answer in my life and every challenge that I face, and I need to heal now. I've had to, as a result of my childhood story and trauma, I've had to walk a lifestyle of healing. And early on, I was in this place of, I know I'm a mess. I know I'm incredibly broken. I know I'm not nice to be around. I know I could head down a dark path, and I had, quite frankly, been down some dark paths. And I fell into the trap of striving to be the better person. And I guess of all the addictions to have, that's probably a better addiction than some others, except that the stress of not being healed yet or perfect yet actually became another kind of unhealthy idol. Now, in recent years, I've come to a place of just some simple truths. Like, I'm not perfect. Far from it. And this side of heaven, I won't be. And there's something I can do every day to walk closer to that. But the pace that I need to go at is the pace that God leads me at. Because there's a way that he wants to heal us. There's a way that he wants to unpack what's going on, whether it's what's leading us to strive or leading us to hide ourselves in our work. And if we ask him, he's going to help us unpack it, because that's a healthy and good thing to want. But we also have to trust him with the process. We also have to be willing to say, the answer in most cases isn't that he's going to just like click his fingers and we're done. It's going to be a process of healing, because that's where we learn the healthier habits. That's where we learn to put the striving down. Learning to rest requires time and practice and effort. So I think, how do we do it? We need to be intentional, but we need to show ourselves grace, and we need to follow Jesus through the process. Those would be the three things. And perhaps the fourth one, which is, it'll be hard sometimes. It'll be hard. It's always hard facing your junk and realizing, oh, there I go again, striving too hard or kicking somebody else hard for not meeting my expectations about productivity. And when you have those moments, you need to be quick to recognize it, repent, forgive, and move on and keep going. So I don't know if that's helpful, but giving ourselves permission to be also comes with the permission to not be perfect and not get even that right, if that makes sense.
Right.
It does. I mean, and I think with, sitting in that place of being, and also sitting in the place of being okay with not being perfect, we also can maybe shift that even again and fall into this unspoken rule of, if you're not constantly fixing something or improving something, you're falling behind. And, that's something that other people could be saying to us. That's something we could be saying to ourselves. And so again, we're like contradicting the good, step we're trying to take of just existing and being. And then you're going to have this little voice in your head going, yeah, but you're not actually doing anything. You need to be fixing something. You need to be adjusting something. And so we then just kind of fall into a different spiral, I feel like, or a sister spiral. But I mean, that pressure is coming from somewhere, right? So, I mean, where do you think it comes from, Emma? And how would you even suggest we start trying to break free from it?
I don't know that it necessarily comes from just one place, actually. Like for me, it was how I was conditioned growing up. And I think it was how my existence was validated. Like for all the unhappiness and the sadness at home and the very difficult things that happened there, I was good at school. I was really smart at school. And that became a place where I was always rewarded. I was always praised. I was always loved on. I was a good student. I was a decent kid at school. And it became ingrained in me that if I strive and do well, I'm gonna receive love. I'm gonna receive attention. Someone's gonna notice me, right? And very addictive, really addictive. And as a kid, just striving, like, somebody, please love me, that it's not surprising. So I think we have to go back. For me, it was about going back to those places in life where those unhealthy mindsets had become lodged, right? And where did that messaging come from? Now, as I've got older, I've compounded that issue myself, which is, I don't need anybody else to put expectations on me because I'm very good at putting them on myself, right? We just moved house, and I realized, my husband's like, we should get some help with a few things. I'm like, no, I've got this. I've got a system. I don't need the help. And actually, my friend, I've got amazing friends. And one of the things I've had to start learning the last 2 or 3 years that I've never learned my whole life is how to receive friendship, like how to accept help, how to let other people show up for you. And so all of that, it'll be different for every person. And I think we go to Jesus and we say, Jesus, sometimes, by the way, we need some help with this, professional help. It's like, Jesus, where is it? Where did it become embedded in me that I need to strive like this? Or where did it become, where did the lie go into the truth drawer of my life that I'm not enough, right? Because scripture tells us we are enough. He made us in his image. That's enough. He made us with a plan and a purpose. That's enough. We get into heaven. We get to be with him because it's something he did, not something we did. That's enough, right? And that's not to say there's no personal accountability, or we can, that salvation doesn't require a decision on our part. But we're bombarded constantly by messages that we need to unpack and say, is that true? Or is that a lie of the enemy? So we are enough. We're enough in our brokenness, and we're enough in our healedness. So hopefully that's encouraging. I really do believe that.
Yeah, no, I hear that, and I do think it's wise to stop and make the intentional reflection of, is that true? Because like you said, we are bombarded with various messages from all different areas of life, whether it's culture or family or community or wherever we're, the news, wherever we're getting it. We're taking that information, we're digesting it, we're processing it, whether we realize it or not, and then we start believing things. And I have personally sat with that intentional reflection of, like, is this true? Because that's the tension I feel like that we all exist in, is like, is this true? And what is true? Then flipping it around. Actually, one time I had a friend who sat with me. This was a lie that I personally believed myself. That I didn't know I was believing at the time, but my friend was kind of coaching me, and I was experiencing a tension, a conflict inwardly about a goal that I wanted to pursue, that I just really felt like God was inviting me into, but it was scary. And I'm like, I don't think I can do it. And the lie that came to the surface was, you can't be a mom and have a career. And that was something my friend had me, like, because she really pushed me. She's like, there's something holding you up. Just write it out. And so I did. And she goes, is that true? And I sat there and I said, I don't think it is. But for some reason, somewhere along the line, I took this message. I don't think it was ever really told to me. I think it was, again, something I caught rather than had been taught. And she was like, can we just call this out? Like, this is laughable. This is not true. And then she forced me then to write what is true, is that I can be a mom, a good mom, and have a career and do both things, especially when it's in alignment with where God is inviting us to partner with him in the good work that he made us for. Back to one of the points you made earlier. And I think another lie or thing that we wrestle with is just this feeling of contentment. Like, how content are you with your life? Where is this? Sometimes I feel like when God's putting me through a season of transition, I wrestle with that tension of, like, well, shouldn't I just be content with the way things are? But what if I don't like the way things are? And it's just this spiral, again, of thoughts that go around and around in my head. And Emma, I'm just curious on your thoughts on this, and just why is it so hard for ambitious women to sit in contentment without feeling like they're just settling in this season of life they're in, whether it's a season of transition, a season to stay, a season to go, like all the things. What are your thoughts?
I think contentment is really hard. It's just really hard to achieve because I think one of the places that the lies come from that is actually the most dangerous are the places where really we should expect to feel safer. So specifically church, specifically small groups, and I know that I'm sure most of the time this is not the intent, but we constantly hear about how we should be growing and how we should be discipled and how we should be better. And that's true. We should be growing and discipled and be better. And at the same time, we have to be content. We have to learn kind of what I was saying earlier, that there's a journey and a process to that. And if we truly understand that we're enough right where we are, if nothing else changed, we would be enough, then we're always striving for something different, and therefore contentment eludes us. I mean, there's the whole worldly type of contentment, like, yeah, you want a better house, a better car, nicer clothes, all of that stuff. And I do think many of us fall into the trap of thinking that's how you find contentment. And that leads to the striving, which gets us into a rat race that's a dangerous addiction. You only have to go. I mean, I've traveled all over the world, for all sorts of reasons, professionally and on mission trips, and just because we love travel. And I've seen people with nothing who are far happier than people I know and love here. So it's not having the things. I think you find that contentment when you truly know whose you are and in whose image you're created. I mean, if I'm in a place of any kind of lack of contentment, just sitting for a moment and remembering Jesus loves me. Like, my Father in heaven loves me. He created me on purpose to be with him. It's kind of hard to sit with those feelings for very long and not actually feel quite content. So I'm not saying I've mastered this, by the way. This is a constant daily practice, because you only have to step outside or switch on the TV and it's like bombarding. But I do think that it's reminding yourself constantly whose you are and in whose image you're created is very helpful.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said. It is a constant bombardment. I mean, the world doesn't want you to be content, because then you wouldn't need everything it's trying to get you to take and digest. So it's never going to be the right environment to find that true contentment. So you're exactly right. You've got to leave Earth and you got to go to the heavenly source of it, because that's really the only true source that you could pull that from. So I agree with that. Well, to wrap up this part of the conversation, again, everything we've talked about, we're just trying to figure out, how do we give ourselves permission to just exist? And so let's do some vision casting. and let's say, hey, we have now truly given ourselves permission to just stop striving for a second. Emma, what do you think we will discover when we get to that point? Like, what is waiting for us in that stillness?
So last year I did something I've never done before, and I went on a silent retreat. A guided silent retreat, and I thought I would go mad before I got there. I thought, I'm going to go mad. 2 or 3 days of saying nothing, doing nothing. I'm not sure how I'm going to survive. And I learned that God, when you truly stop and you stop every part of you from being, or just put your whole being into a place of stillness and quietness. First thing, you hear God's voice in an unbelievably clear way. Like, he starts to you really are able to start to hear him. And what I suspect he's saying all the time, but we're too busy to listen. And so that was unbelievably beautiful. And in the space of 2 or 3 days, I felt I made more progress. I had more creativity. I had more good ideas that were heavenly inspired than perhaps I had in years, simply from stopping, taking myself away and somewhere different, and just being in his presence and nature alone. That's pretty much it. And so I think for all of us, if we can even experience a little bit of that, we're missing out on so much because we don't stop and we don't lie down in green pastures and let the waters of the Holy Spirit just wave over us. So I'd encourage every woman listening to do it, and to do it often, because you come back to the source. You come back to the source of refreshing. And there's a really good book, Bending Time, by a prophetic gentleman called Dan McCullen, who talks about the things God can do when we slow down and just let him do it. And coming away from that silent retreat, I know in the days and weeks afterwards, there were assignments God had for me, where one of them was actually a very challenging business legal issue. And I had clarity of thought and clarity of words and clarity of purpose like I haven't had my entire legal career around this one thing. And I'm pretty sure it's because I'd taken time out, because nothing was clouding my judgment at this point. And we got to a miraculous solution very quickly. So, I just encourage everyone to do it. Just try it. Even if you're scared of it, try it. See what God does, Put it down as a fleece.
Well, I was just going to say too, what I'm hearing in that also is something that I believe, and that's God's not ever going to use chaos to speak to you. He's not ever going to it's never going to be allowed. Just, again, chaotic is all I can think of. He wants you to be quiet so you can hear him. And so I think it's kind of like, if your child is yelling, you don't yell back at them, you lower your voice. That's kind of how I feel God is, right? Exactly.
Yes.
But,
setting the bar for us, Jordan.
Wait, I don't do it. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, that's what I hear, right? Is that it's really kind of going back to that parent-child kind of interaction that we're supposed to have with God. And if he really wants to tell us something very important, he's just waiting for us to be quiet to hear it. Is kind of what I was envisioning when you were speaking.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, Emma, I just really appreciate you coming on here and just sharing this challenge with us of what it means to just be still and to know who God is, and also who God made us to be. And sometimes that requires us to, or almost, I would probably say all the time, requires us to be still and just be silent, and to really develop that practice of silence and solitude in our everyday life. I mean, we could just seriously talk about this with you for hours. So much of what you've said is just going to sit with us and our listeners in all the best ways. Before we let you go, can we shift gears a little bit? Because we have one little segment that we have left to do with you that we like to call unqualified advice. Because sometimes,
good. The best kind.
Yes, it is the best kind, because sometimes the best advice comes from people who are figuring it out right alongside you. So we're going to throw a couple of rapid fire questions your way. There was no prep, no pressure, just your gut response, even if it's ridiculous. Just lay it on us, Emma, So I will kick things off. First question is, what's one thing you do just because it brings you joy? No productivity points allowed.
Oh, baking. I absolutely love baking.
Okay. That's one of my favorite pastimes. What's your favorite thing to bake?
Whatever the last thing was in the Great British Baking Show that they had to try and recreate. Yeah.
Oh,
no.
yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So now I'm going off track with this rapid fire segment, because I am so intrigued. I love the Great British Baking Show. what are your thoughts on the mystery baskets? Like, I know I'm not from Britain. Okay, so a lot of these pastries are like new to me, and I go,
Those are from the pit of hell. Those are from the
Yeah.
pit of hell.
Okay.
Like literally, like first of all, you have to actually know what the thing is, and then you somehow have to have figured out how to bake. No, I mean some of them it's with limited. I'm always amazed that without pictures and sometimes without recipes, you actually get enough versions that look vaguely the same. It's like, how did they do that?
I don't know. I
It's
don't know,
crazy.
but that's just insane. It always feels cruel to me too, and I'm like, oh, it's time. So, anyway, all right, Jordan. Enough talking on my part.
No,
You go.
You're good. All right, Emma, what is your go-to way that you like to rebel against the hustle culture, even if it's like just a tiny little way?
I refuse to wear makeup to every corporate meeting. There are corporate meetings
for
where I
you.
went. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Love
Well,
it.
what's a self-care trend you think is totally overrated?
Botox.
Mm,
Who wants
Yeah.
to stick pins in their face?
no. Nope. Not me. Not
Nope.
I.
Nope.
Not I.
No, no.
Love it. All right, let's see. If you had to take a mandatory day off, how would you spend it knowing that you would have zero guilt by the end of the day?
So I would get up and go for a long walk, buy a really good coffee, hang out with my husband and go probably for another coffee. Then there would be a bubble bath involved at some point, and then hanging out with
Yes.
my kids and playing card games, Skippo. I'm beating them. I'm
Skippo.
beating them.
That's well, obviously.
Zero guilt.
Obviously.
Zero
Yeah.
guilt.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, what is one thing that you are totally okay with being mediocre at?
Oh, piano playing.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
Let's see. What is a belief about success that you wish we could all just collectively throw in the trash?
That it looks one way. That it's the same.
Okay.
That success is defined by what you have and what you do.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Okay, what is your I need a break anthem? Like a song that you're just like,
wow.
yes.
You did depart from reality for a second. What are you listening to?
Yes.
Well, if I was taking as one of my favorite songs is "Jump" by Van Halen, but I'm not sure that really qualifies for rest.
That's amazing.
Yes,
Sure.
has me leaping all
That's
over the house.
amazing. Yes.
Hey, you got to move. You
Okay.
got to move. It helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally get that. All right, last one. If your soul could put up an out of office message,
boy.
what would it say? I know. Ending on a real easy one.
It would say, "I am an eternal introvert. Please go away."
I'm copying
That's
it.
my
I'm copying
favorite.
it. Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, so real. So
Yeah,
authentic.
sadly,
I love
mean,
it.
I love my friends. I love people in my life very, very much. And then there are just days it's like, I just need to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Amen.
And that's
Amen.
okay. And that's okay.
Mhm.
Well, Emma, you nailed it. Thank you. That was like the perfect mix of wisdom and just the right amount of chaos. So unqualified advice gold. I'm going to just put it out there. That's
Yes. Amen.
Well, hopefully it helps at least someone one time.
great. It will.
Yes.
It helped us. I'll speak for Jane. It helped us.
You can speak for me any day, Jordan.
That's
Well, Emma, thank you so much for being here and sharing just not only your brilliance, but also your honesty and this conversation about rest and worth and just being is, I feel, one that so many of us needed to hear. And so I know that Jane and I, we're going to be walking away with full hearts and hopefully a little bit more permission to stop striving and just exist. So I thank you again on behalf of Jane and I. Thank you.
Well, thank you, ladies.
For making that space. We appreciate it. Okay. Deep breath, friends. That was a lot of truth, a lot of grace, and a whole lot of permission to just be. So, what was your takeaway? And what nugget of truth are you taking with you into tomorrow? I guess I'll share first. I love what she talked about with the stillness, the silence, really having that be a crucial part of pulling yourself out of, the guilt, the striving, the hustle. And it's part of that permission to just exist. And it's existing in a place where I believe, God is not ever going to talk to you via chaos. He's not a God of chaos.
Yeah.
So he wants you to come to him. He wants you to quiet yourself and just let him be there and be in his presence. And, and I think when we make ourselves quiet, the still small voice, that's when the Holy Spirit will speak peace and contentment over us. And, and I think that's, at least for me, when she's sitting there talking about that, I'm going, when am I going to do that? Like, when am I going to find time for that? How am I going to do that? But, I liked what she said about, it could be go to a coffee shop for 15 minutes and, shut your computer and just don't think about anything. And, so it doesn't have to be like, you go in your soundproof room and tell your kids don't talk for an hour, no. But it is just this, I think it's more of just that practice, right? It's that exercise of quieting your mind, because that can be loud too, not even just external noise. Like it is also your mind, like quiet your mind and just listen. And, that is when God is going to speak to you and help you find that way out of all of this just junk that we don't want to be living out of and operating out of. So that was what I had. What about you, Jane?
Yeah, I really appreciated, her challenge of being still and quieting yourself, because I just feel like it's in those moments of stillness where we start to get in touch with our authentic self. And I think maybe what's uncomfortable sometimes of just sitting still is, I think, what we have to get through what rises to the surface first. And it's usually the anxiety we feel. And like you said, your thoughts are just running wild and like trying to sift through all these things. And it's like, once we can get past all that junk, right, we start to tap into things like, I don't know, I think about this question a lot, Jordan. Jesus asked it a lot when he was here on earth, but like, what is it you want? What do you want? What do you want me to do for you? And I think that can be a scary question for us, because it really starts tapping into these desires that we have. And I really do think at the core of our desires that they are good. They're God-given, and that's part of our authentic self. And I think maybe we can be afraid to tap into that, because what we want may take some risks. What we want may be change that we're scared to take, right? And I just I hear a freedom and a permission to show up as your whole authentic self with what Emma shared, and really kind of pushing back on this hustle culture, this striving, this you always have to be doing something to have worth. And the reality is, you have worth because you are.
Yeah.
You exist. God made you very good, and like he made you from this restful place, and like you didn't have to do anything to earn that. You are good because you're a creature that he made. And I say that in also saying, listeners, I struggle with it too. Like I do struggle with that thought of being worthy, despite me doing nothing, sometimes. And it's okay. It's okay. And I think we need to sit with that more and think about that more. So that's a takeaway that I'm really mulling over as a result of what Emma shared. So yeah, she was great.
She really was, and to you guys out there, yes, you listening and scrolling and pretending to be productive. What was your takeaway? I mean, what we stood out to you in this episode? We want to know. So DM us, tag us, just yell into the vast, indifferent internet. We promise we're listening, or at least pretending very well that we are. We try.
We do try. And, if your inner critic is still shouting about your undone laundry or missed deadlines, let this episode be your holy pause button, okay? You are allowed to sit. You are allowed to breathe. You are allowed to exist without proving a thing, okay?
Yes.
Ugh.
Oh, nice. That's. Oh, I need to hear that. Man, and a big thanks again to Emma Sharma for joining us and for being just a living, working, leading example of what it looks like to lead from a place of rest and not striving. And if you loved this conversation, share it with a fellow working mom who needs to know that she doesn't have to earn her rest either.
Amen. After all, life's messy.
Chaos is real and none of us have it all figured out.
And that's exactly why we're here, because
What even is this?